Hi everyone, I'm Lekoloka and I make research simple so that you do not lose your mind or your degree. And in today's video, I will be looking at, or we will be looking at rather, how to become a lecturer in South Africa. Because one thing that I have come to realize is that becoming a lecturer, it's a very nuanced process, right? It's not like a straightforward process, like if you want to become a chartered accountant, if you want to become a medical doctor, or even if you want to become an athlete. So in this video, we'll be covering different aspects on how one can put themselves in a better position to become a lecturer. First step to becoming a lecturer in South Africa is that you need to have a strong undergraduate foundation. So you need to make sure that whilst you're still doing your undergraduate, your grades are on par, meaning that your grades are quite competitive. Because in order for you to progress and pursue a postgraduate program, you will need somewhere around 65% average on minimum. And also you need to keep in mind that doing a postgraduate is very competitive. That's a very competitive arena. So you need to make sure that you press in so that at least you're somewhere around your 75% average, right? So that is that. First thing first, you need a strong undergraduate foundation whereby you need to make sure that your marks are competitive. And also, don't just limit yourself to just having good grades. It's very important that you also harness your interpersonal skills, meaning that you need to become your mentor in your undergraduate. You need to make sure that at least you're involved in something, like become a tutor, be involved in societies, pursue leadership roles, because that will help you in your journey later on in the future when you apply to become a lecturer. Second step to becoming a lecturer in South Africa, it's honors degree. So you need to make sure that when you are during your honors degree, because that is then when you're first exposed to real research, that is when you're going to be conducting your either your mini dissertation or rather your research project. So you need to make sure that number one, you understand yourself. What is it that you exude passion for? Because a lot of times students that do honors, they're like, oh, they just go around and search for topics, but they don't really sit with themselves and ask themselves a question of, what is it that I love? What is it, if I am to become an academic, what would I then define myself? What is my brand? Although in academia, we don't have such a thing as a brand, but we have such a thing that we call research field. So you need to understand, what is your research field? What is it that you want to focus on? What is it that you will love and you want to do perhaps for the rest of your life? Because academia, it's all about that. So you need to have a brand, which is a research brand. Third step to becoming a lecturer in South Africa is a master's degree. So this is the game changer. This is where now things get serious, right? And most institutions I know, when students are doing their masters or master's candidates, they often have opportunities where they can then become junior researchers or assistant lecturers. So that is where now you need to start knocking on doors and find out about these opportunities. However, institutions are different, and departments that exist within institutions are different. So that is where now you need to go and seek out the information of different programs that exist within your university that inculcate or rather offer students, postgraduate students, a platform for them to pioneer their journey within the academic space. And again, this is where you also solidify yourself as a researcher. When you're doing your master's, this is where now you start to think about publishing papers. This is where you start thinking about, in a broader, registering for conferences, being on the lookout, for conferences. This is where now you're not just writing for the sake of writing a research, but this is where now you solidify yourself and you have expectations, or rather now you're paving a way for yourself to even go and start doing a PhD. So it's very important. The master's degree is a game changer. It's also important for you to understand that when you now have obtained your master's, a master's degree is the minimum requirement for one to become a lecturer. So most universities, whenever they will look for like a lecturer, an associate lecturer, they will look for somebody who has what? Who has a master's degree and who has intentions to pursue what? Intentions to pursue a PhD. But it's very important that when you now have your master's degree, you also have a bit of like a experience that is paired with that degree. Hence why it's very important that from your undergraduate up until your honors, you inculcate that experience whereby you either become an assistant lecturer, you volunteer to become a tutor, you just get involved, you become like a what is it, I know other universities also have like writing consultants where they hire students, a mentor, all of those things. So it's very important that by that time you already have that experience, or that foundational experience, and then after your master's degree is that qualificational experience that will be paired with those other secondary experiences that you would have acquired along the way. And also during your master's, it's very important that you do what you publish, as I've mentioned this, because now that is a point whereby you're now solidifying yourself as a researcher. And the fourth step to now becoming a lecturer in South Africa is PhD. So PhD is not necessarily the minimum requirement. However, to stay in academia, you will need to have your PhD, because a PhD, what it does is that it sets you apart, right? And also it is responsible for your progression within the academic space. In a sense that if you want to then become like a head of school, you want to become a departmental head, you want to become a director, you want to become the dean of students, you will need to have that as one of the requirements. So a PhD is not necessarily the minimum requirement to becoming a lecturer, but it's a need as time progresses when you want to then progress within the academic space. And also other institutions will tell you, if you're applying with your master's, they will tell you that within so and so years, you need to have obtained your PhD. Hence why it is very important. And for students who are then obtaining their PhD and they want to be in the academic space, actually you're at a very pinnacle point in your life, because what you can now do is that you can seek out other opportunities, because already you have your master's and already you're doing your PhD. That on itself, it sets you apart. And those opportunities are, you can look into private institutions, your Eduvos, your Rosebank, your Boston College, all of those institutions. I know there are many there are many posts that go out from those institutions whereby they're looking for part-time lecturers, lecturers who can lecture online. So it's very important that you look at those, because also those are like good stepping ladders to one gaining experience within the academic space. The fifth step to becoming a lecturer in South Africa is what we call institutional programs. So for example, let's say you're a postgraduate student at a certain universities. What you need to know is that institutions, they have a mandate to inculcate the talent that exists within their institutions, right? So there are various institutional programs that exist within different institutions. For example, maybe perhaps in 2 years, certain institutions or maybe certain departments within an institution or certain schools within an institution will be like, oh, we're looking for junior researchers, or we're looking for assistant teachers, or we're looking for assistant lecturers, however way they want to frame it within that institution. So now it's up to you to make sure that you know the different institutional programs that exist within your universities, because it's every institution's responsibility to make sure that they also do what they also harness the talent that exists within their institution. For example, at my university we have an institutional program that does that. I also know that different universities, like Verse University, they also have that, whereby they have like junior researchers being part of their institutional mandate in order to refine and harness talent within their institution. Another important thing is that you need to understand that different senior lecturers, they have like a funding that comes with them being because they've already established themselves within the academic space. So sometimes they have a research that they're undergoing, and that research it will require that they also have an assistant researcher, or they have like a PhD student that is part and parcel of that research. So in that way also, that is a way that you can gain experience. And I do know that those kind of like research posts, they also do pay those research assistant slash PhD students. So it's very important that you look into that. You look into the different institutional programs that exist within your university. Some institutional programs, they are for the whole university. Some institutional programs are only for a specific department. For example, maybe the psychology department or the School of Economics or the engineering department. So it's very important that you then ask those questions. What opportunities then exist for one to become a lecturer in your respective university? Another leeway into getting into academia, it is through national and provincial programs. So there are programs that exist outside. For example, one that I can think of on top of my head is the NGAP program. That is a program that is there to harness and to help young academics to get into academia. So also that is another program which is, I believe, is funded by the government. So that is that. So you also need to look into those kind of programs to better understand and apply for those, and I believe they will then they will then put you in a certain institution that will require that, and they will be the one that facilitate the payments, salary, and all of those things. I don't know how it necessarily works, but I do know that there are provincial and national programs that exist that offer a pathway into getting into academia. And other programs, they are also still national, but they also give one opportunities to even go outside, meaning that they go overseas into different to other countries. That is where they're going to be trained for like 6 months or even a year or even 2, and those programs are the DAAD program, which is DAAD programs, and those are like scholarships. And there are certain programs that also exist that I believe the educational department in South Africa, they facilitate those. But we also have like international international programs that also exist. But with that, you just need to do your research and find out about those, because there will be posts that will go out perhaps within international universities, where they will look for any person who's willing to do their PhD, who has their masters, who's willing to work with so and so lecturer in so and so research, because that research perhaps is funded, and they're looking for like a PhD student who will work on that particular research. And in that way, you're gaining experience, but at the same time, you're doing what? You're also getting employment. So that is that. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope this video was quite helpful. Please comment down below on where in your academic journey are you on, and if it's a dream of yours to become a lecturer, it's quite a cool job. I will have to give it that. So thank you very much, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Until I see you next time.